Hello, everybody. Sorry, a lot. There you are. I'm in. Big Tuesday. Lots of news. And I just want to shout out to everybody in London. I get more viewers in that city than any other city in the world. It's my number one city. So for some reason, the Londoners love this content. And I should probably start trying to figure out a British accent. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I'm going to roll down through the top cities every day with hopefully a new mug too. Crypto Maximus, good to see you, buddy, out there. So let's jump in and talk about everything in OCTA today. And there's a crazy amount going on. Let me try and make sure I got my slides. Yes. So the topic today is TradFi goes crypto. How literally every arm, every tentacle of TradFi is infiltrating crypto in one way or the other. We'll cover some of those methods today too with some really big news. Also, global crypto markets 1.04 trillion, I think. The volume about 25 billion. Price of Bitcoin is 25,770 approximately. Market dominance 48.2%. ETH has been holding really well, about 1638. And ETH market dominance at 19%. And yield farming is doing really well. Fear and greed is at 40, and that's the story. But there's a lot more. So let's jump in. And this is, of course, edutainment, as you know. And in the world of AI, you need to amplify your intelligence. And you do that by subscribing to this channel. No ifs, ands, or buts. I will not waste your time, but I will make you smarter. So thank you. Bertzini, good to see you, buddy. Let's talk about the market over the last 7 days divided by Bitcoin. This basically tells us what has outperformed Bitcoin over the last 7 days. And you see names like Tron, Ton, Sol, ETH, Chainlink, Matic. They all beat Bitcoin. I did talk about Chainlink last week, actually, and how it was really looking strong and looking good. Let's look at the dollar version. It's not as good, but you can see that for the week, it was a bit of a weak. That sounds weird. For crypto last week, but Ton and Chainlink still strong, still green, and a few others too. Tron 2, I think, is green as well. So let's look at the stock market before we jump into some on-chain stuff, some exciting on-chain stuff. It was a monster week for disruption. Look at all that green. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla had a huge week and a huge day again today. Meta, all the stuff that we love, the big seven, are crushing it once again. So September has not been all that bad so far. Touch wood. I still have Paulie here. Paulie is the polar bear. So until he goes away, we need to keep our seatbelts on. All right, let's start with the good news, ladies and gentlemen. I always start with what we have most of, and there's a ton of good news. So first of all, this is kind of a staggering stat, and you know I've done extensive work on the amount of lost coins, but check this out. You can see here the amount of Bitcoin that is either HODLd or lost, that or basically has not moved in the last 5 years, is nearly 8 million Bitcoin. Okay, that means technically only 11 million or about thereabouts have not. And in fact, taking this 5 year plus, it doesn't include all the Bitcoin lost over the last 5 years or less. So we know it's just super scarce. It's mind-boggling how scarce it is. And I always get the question, well, if it's so scarce, is that not bad? No, it's not. It means the price of what's left will go up, and it won't take a lot to move it as well. So let's look at another view, which is kind of interesting. This is from Joe Burnett. Breaking news, 95% of all Bitcoin has not moved in the last 30 days. So again, despite the weak market, only 5% is moving around. 95% is sitting tight, and we know why. But the real magic of this, imagine there's a catalyst, and imagine big money wants to jump in and buy a truckload of Bitcoin. The price will just go parabolic. And that's just economics, ladies and gentlemen. That is kind of why I'm so obsessed with Bitcoin. It's so scarce. So literally, when the big institutions come and they're fighting over that 5%, and all the legacy holders are just sitting there watching, oh, this is crazy. Anyway, it's a reason to be excited. Let's look at another reason to be excited. This is the Bitcoin SOPR bands. And some people call this the second bottom on the SOPR bands. And it's not hopium, but it's a signal from on-chain analytics. And Bitcoin's recent price action has been confusing for analysts, with a surge from 26K to 28K on August 29th, and then followed by a retracement. back to 26K. It's like any ETF news pumps the market and then it kind of trickles back. But then the money comes in and they buy under 26K, however much it dips. I know Michael Saylor's out there buying some right now for a fact, based on the stock he issued. And he will be deploying into Bitcoin if he hasn't already done so. We just haven't heard yet. Now, the recurring theme discusses the possibility of a bottom after the bottom, which implies the secondary bottom in data, but at a higher price. So if you look at the green rings, they're the bottoms, followed by the purple rings marked number 2. They are the secondary bottoms. Well, according to SOPR bands, we are there right now. So we'll see. The SOPR dips above represent the so-called second bottom, and here we are. So again, bullish sign for where we are. That's why I'm pretty confident that 25K around that area that we saw back, or was it August, or where we had that big dip, that might be the true bottom right now. Definitely supported by SOPR bands. Now let's talk about Bitcoin season. You can see here Bitcoin season scores now at 31. So we're just coming out of Bitcoin season, and that is also reflected by the strength of the assets we showed at the beginning. Many things over the last week, Bitcoin, but this chart is over 90 days. So let's go to Swissblock for a second. They have a thing called the Bitcoin risk signal and the altcoin signal. Now, the altcoin signal is not a risk signal, but the Bitcoin risk signal is a risk signal. Now, the midterm outlook for Bitcoin and crypto appears promising. Bitcoin is anticipated to reach its low point in mid-September, paving the way for an impressive October. Yoo-hoo, October is coming, according to these metrics. And while we're nearing the bottom, it's essential to note that the market conditions remain quite volatile. The risk signal is currently stabilizing near the high risk end, which means it'll only get better from here. And altcoins are struggling a little bit to maintain their strength relative to Bitcoin. But as we saw with that 48 Bitcoin dominance score, it's actually not that bad for altcoins. But some altcoins are really outperforming. We'll talk about them in a minute too. But additionally, the difference between small and large caps creates an uncertain environment for altcoins, making an extended alt season unlikely for now. Okay, this is going to be up until April 2024. A lot of the attention will go to Bitcoin, but select altcoins will also rally, do very well. So let's talk about Ethereum for 1 second. Speaking of altcoins, the ETH Balance exchanges also hits a 5-year low. We're talking a lot about the 5-year lows, and that balance just reached about 14.4 million. And last time was this low was August 2023. So that keeps on going down. So drainage continues to happen. Assets become more and more scarce as we go forward. Speaking of ETH as well, it did pop a death cross yesterday, the day before, at around 1620. That's when the, hey Jeff and MT, that is when the 50-day moving average crosses down through the 200-day moving average. It's kind of hard to see. The big thick red line is the 200-day. The little thin red line is the 50-day. Recluse man, how are you, buddy? And the butterflies are getting better thanks to you. But you can see also what's interesting here. This flicked at 1620 at the exact same time that IDSS flicked a buy signal. So, as I always say, 40% of the time, a death cross can result in price action going up, not down. 60% down, 40% up. It'll be interesting to watch this space and see if 1620 is the bottom for ETH. It's now about 1638. So, digital assets. Let's look at money flows. Follow the money, as I say. Follow the devs, follow the money. Digital asset investment product inflows did cool off a little bit, and it was down. Minor outflows, though, only 11 million. And there's been a bit of negative sentiment over the last 7 weeks now. And total drainage is about 340 million. Year-to-date digital asset products, however, remain very positive, plus 165 million. So the last 7 weeks had a lot of drainage, but still net positive for the year. And there's been different gyrations of investor flows. And again, this is just for the last week. Now let's jump forward to a key piece of news that will take us into our next piece of news. Altcoins did see outflows as well, most notable being Polygon and Ethereum. Those two can't catch a break this year, which saw 8.6 million and 3.2 million respectively, while Solana saw inflows for the 9th consecutive week, totaling $0.7 million, and the year-to-date inflows are nearly $27 million. Suggests Based on this data, it is the most loved altcoin among investors. And this year, and I wonder why. So let's dig into that. And by the way, the most loved altcoin is an article that was published in the media today as well. Again, looking at money flows and percentage of assets under management, nothing has come close to the actual Solana performance. Let's jump into some of the news today regarding Solana, which has taken the world by storm. But if it was a true bull market, I'm sure the token would have doubled today. Instead, it's only up about 6% or something. But here, as you can see, Solana year-to-date inflow suggests it is the most loved altcoin per coin shares. And this was in, I forget the magazine it was printed in, but one of the top crypto journals as well. I forget the name. Oh well, big day. Now, the big news for Solana as well is Visa has partnered with Solana for USDC payments. Now, they've been experimenting with this since 2021 with an Ethereum-based platform. But now they decided, okay, let's go whole hog. This stuff works. Let's find a way to cut our costs and be able to get part of more transactions. And the breakdown here is really they are expanding in USDC settlement capabilities with leveraging the Solana blockchain. And Visa is collaborating with merchant acquirers WorldPay and Nuove and allowing certain merchants associated with them to receive payments in USDC instead of a traditional fiat currency, which customers use via Visa cards. And Visa has been testing this extensively, as I mentioned. They started with crypto.com. I don't know what happened with that pilot program, but it did work. But now they're focusing on a different chain. And Swift has partnered with another TradFi news. Swift, as you know, partnered with Chainlink for the tokenization experiment. And USD peg stablecoins, etc., have conducted transactions worth, I think in 2022, over $11 trillion. And that gets the attention of big companies like Visa. They need to be part of this. And we also had other news that PayPal is building their own stablecoin, PYPAL or PSYPAL. I can't remember the name of that either. Need more coffee. Now, this is a cool tweet as well from Ryan Selkis, who said the Solana bear market momentum has been nuts. I don't know of another community outside of ETH that eats glass and turns it into diamonds during the bear market quite so well as Solana. So Ryan is from Missouri, who we are a big fan of as well. And Oxmert, a good friend of Toli as well. So in order, DeFi 2.0, Shopify partnership, only possible on Solana campaign, Helium with the DPIN stuff, Maker now considering a move to Solana, Visa moving to Solana, Hyperdrive, which is the new hackathon that's coming, I think, in a day or two, Breakpoint in the Netherlands, and Firedancer, hopefully launching by the end of this year. It has been a great 2023 so far for what people call dead not too long ago. Anyway, that's just Solana. Speaking of altcoins as well, let's look at some performance. I'm a big believer of when, we're in an early bull for Bitcoin. And I always talk about, okay, in an early bull, you got to get off the ground. If you don't get off the ground, odds are it's a very bad omen. And then we're baking that into a model we call the ATR model, which looks at a number of different factors. But these are the off the bottom names. Now, I drew a red line here on this chart, which is from the compendium. And the chart moved, so the line didn't move with it, but it should be at the 100% mark. Sorry about that. But here, the ones that are off the 100% off the bottom from this cycle low are Bitcoin Cash, Lido, Maker, Optimism, Quant, Solana, Stacks, Ton, Tron, XLM, XRP, and XDC. They are the ones that are kind of moving already in this early bull. And you want to keep an eye on those things that are making the move. And the ones that are making new cycle lows, Cardano, Algorand, Aptos, ARM, Avalanche, CRO, Polkadot, Elrond, ICP, Near, and VeChain. So they're the flatliner ones. Just sharing data. Don't shoot the messenger here. Now, moving on, let's talk about DEXs for a second. Uniswap is doing incredibly well this season too. And you can see that in 2023, there have been a couple of months where Uniswap has been smashing Coinbase in terms of volume. And as we go forward, and this is one of my forecasts back in 2022 for the year 2023, that decentralized exchanges would eclipse centralized exchanges because people no longer trust centralized exchanges as much. So this is proof of that from the team at Econometrics as well. Now, a little bit of macro hike probabilities. Only 33% think there will be a rate hike in November. Nothing, of course, in September. And 65% think there will be no rate hike. So this is a good omen too. And typically these things pan out. And I think the macroeconomic data will only get a lot worse between now and November. So these probabilities will shrink a lot more. So I think we had our last hike, but who knows what the Fed is trying to do. We'll see. And in a little bit of reverse indicator news as well, Jim Cramer flipped bullish on Binance. He says, CZ looks like a good guy. I'm bullish here, loading up on their tokens. It's way oversold. Last time he said the same thing with FTX and SPF before they went bust. So a lot of people are worried this could be the death knell for Binance. I don't know. I'm just putting this here as a joke, but it's true what Jim Cramer said. So he's now went from being very against crypto to back to being bullish in crypto again. So we'll see where this goes. Speaking of Grayscale as well, a lot of Grayscale news lately, especially with the chances of a spot ETF increasing. These are the latest discounts. You can see that the GBTC discount over Bitcoin is minus 19.99%. This model, I just shared the update on Patreon as well earlier this morning. The ETH premium is now 30%. It was 55% a couple of months ago. Not even, I think about 6 or 7 weeks ago. So that has been a huge move. And GSOL, be careful of that, everybody. That is not a discount. That's a premium. So basically, to get one SOL using GSOL, you need to spend nearly 4 times the price, because the amount of Solana per GSOL share is $7.59 worth, and you spend $31 in SOL. So again, it makes no sense, but that's what Grayscale do. They allocate to high net worth individuals, accredited investors first. They buy, and then they release it after that to the market at a premium. And retail investors get shafted, and that's not good. Anyway, speaking of the GBTC arbitrage shrinking, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is currently trading at a 20% discount to its net asset value. That's actually 19.99% to be exact. And this means the underlying value of the 124,700 Bitcoins is not reflected in the share price of GBTC. Remember, they have about 650,000 in total. And this creates still a reverse opportunity for arbitrageurs to profit by selling Bitcoin spot or shorting futures contracts while buying GBTC shares. And the potential for the 125,000 Bitcoin arbitrage could have a significant impact on the market. However, it's likely that the ARB will diminish to zero, like I say, when things happen. Good to see you, Birdzini, again. When there is a GBTC conversion to an ETF. But just interesting to see the size of that. Remember, back in, I think it was late December 2022 or early January, the total amount was 309,000 Bitcoin. And now it's only 124,000. So that's a very big narrowing of the discount, which is good. And another thing that is upsetting people is the amount of money that Grayscale are making from both GBTC and ETH. And in full disclosure, I do own some ETHE. But here they are making nearly $40 million a month and billions of dollars since the year 2021 on fees. And that's why fees eat. But sometimes if something is selling at a 55% discount, like the Ethereum Trust, you know, it's worth trading and swapping into that, even despite the 2% fee for a relatively short period of time. You don't want to be holding it for 10 years, but a short period is fine. Now, Tesla, a little bit of Tesla news as well. They're completely crushing it in Euroland. These are the actual year-to-date sales. The pink is 2023, and you can see the dark blue is 2022. And we are way, way, way ahead of where typically things are, more than 2x ahead. If you look at the July numbers, they were about 85, 90,000 sales year to date in 2022. And as of July 2023, they were up above 203,000. So this is pretty stunning. And this is during a hard economic time, especially in China, where things are terrible economically. But boy, the Tesla insurance numbers for last week basically tell us we can expect some huge records in China. Best August ever, best second month of a quarter ever, best quarter after 2 months ever. And new Model 3 is the vehicle that crushes every other car on the planet. Nothing can come close. Bang for the buck. Years ago, someone asked me, what do you think is the best value for money for food? I said the $1 hamburger at McDonald's, although I'd never eat one. For $1, it is an incredible value. And that's the key. Bang for the buck. That's what the new Model 3 is. They will completely wipe the table with the competition with that car. And of course, mainstream media is not even talking about it. Forget FSD 12 and everything else. Hey, Mr. Weston, how are you, sir? Over there in the United Kingdom. Thank you for coming. But this is kind of stunning news. In addition, if that wasn't enough, Tesla is delivering one car every 16 seconds on planet Earth. They've done, I think, over 1 million vehicles in like 26 weeks. So they're on target to do 2 million vehicles, even as they are still ramping gigafactories, still building them, still changing production lines as they go. So it's just mind-boggling. Now for the bad news, everybody. Buckle in. Let's go. First of all, the top three last week, we had Bitcoin down 1%. I call that flat, though. That's not really a big deal. Ethereum down 2% and Binance down 2%, despite Jim Cramer's pump. We'll see what it's doing today. But it's amazing. There was talk of that $210, $205, $215 level that was critical to prevent liquidations. And Binance has stayed above that, other than a few small little dips beneath. So things overall, not that bad so far in September. Now, the top three winners and losers last week, TON, Maker, XLM, top three winners for the week, up 18%, 10%, and 8% respectively. And the losers for the week, Hedera down 8%, Polkadot down 6%, and Optimism down 6%. And that's what happened. So let's look at the top 50 over the last 90 days. This is kind of, sometimes I look at 30 days, sometimes I look at 90 days. 90 days, of course, is a better view. 30 days, things can be very volatile. But Bitcoin is still kind of positioning itself the same. Yesterday, I shared the 30-day chart on DCA with Ivan and CTO. But here you can see the names that are actually beating Bitcoin and the ones where Bitcoin is beating them. Bitcoin is black in the middle. And to the left, you can see I mentioned like Tron, Hedera, Link, Leo, Synthetics, Solana, XLM, etc., Bitcoin Cash, Maker are all beating Bitcoin over the last 90 days. And again, interesting timing here. And as we are seeing a breakout of select altcoins really outperforming the market with compelling value propositions, whereas others are just, as I said, flat on the floor. So we'll see. Now, fear and greed is still at 40, flat like the Bitcoin price. Nothing really happening there. So let's move along. People aren't that fearful considering it's September. They should be terrified. But it's not that bad, as you say. This is the Bitcoin Nasdaq correlation over the last 90 days as well. QQQ is up 5% and Bitcoin is down 4%. So they are kind of following each other. They weren't at the beginning of the year. They deviated in June, but then we're tracking each other July and August, and even now in September too. So there is that risk correlation as well out there. Hey, Bill, good to see you. Now, I did talk about this, topic today is kind of TradFi coming into crypto. There's another one that is actually playing part of the game here too. We spoke about Visa and Solana. Well, Mastercard forges blockchain alliances to power future of central bank digital currencies. Mastercard goes with Ripple for CBDCs, partnering with Ripple, Consensus, and other blockchains to help governments put central bank digital currencies in place. And I will be very open. I do not like blockchain companies that support spy coins. That's it. That's just me. It's like I wouldn't invest in a company that sells cigarettes that cause lung cancer. It's just my investment preference. So CBDCs, we don't like. There's enough bad stuff going on in the world. Also, oil is heading for $90. There's a cool chart from Bloomberg. And I did say last week, by year end, I said $90 to $100 is on the cards, actually on this OCTA exactly a week ago. But this chart here says a famous oil analyst called Ross says Brent oil to be in the $90 to $100 barrel range by year end. I got there first, so we'll see. Now, time for some ugly news. And if you don't like politics or corruption, or if you like corruption, maybe it's time to leave. So first of all, big unlocks, huge unlocks this week coming over the next 7 days. Aptos, WorldCoin. WorldCoin is just going to bleed coins forever, so we said that from day one. Uniswap, we're talking about them doing very well, but still have a huge unlock. IMX, Filecoin, Polkadot, Avalanche, Cosmos, Doge, and GMT. A lot of reigning tokens, and again, you can clearly see it. After these unlocks, price gets suppressed. It's as easy as that, everybody. So be careful if you hold any of those bags. Not a good time to be holding them. And in addition, some bad macro news too. Again, I did say this many times, and they were flat for the longest time, but delinquencies are now beginning to spike. Delinquencies, that's when people cannot pay their bills, pay their finance charges on their auto loans, on their credit cards, on the consumer loans. They just hit their highest level in 11 years since 2012. Both rates and price rise rapidly with inflation. Delinquency rates are skyrocketing, and the average new car costs $48,300, unless of course you're buying a Tesla that's cheaper, up from $37,700 just 4 years ago. And the average used car is selling for $28,000 in the US. And remember, in 1 month from now, the student loan repayment program of $1.6 trillion in debt will resume, and people are fighting inflation with debt they cannot afford, and the debt servicing costs are at a 20-year high. So things are really ugly out there, and there's going to be a lot of things are going to break. We're just beginning to see the impact of the interest rate hikes. It takes 6 months plus to get to the system. Now we're going to see all the havoc being wreaked. The next 3 to 6 months is going to be ugly numbers. And I did a video on bankruptcies and how they're spiking. Now everybody's talking about bankruptcy spiking. It's just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. We are heading into an ugly time, which could cause the Fed to cut rates fast and, of course, fire up the money printer. But maybe they're firing it up already. We'll talk about that in a second, too. So let's look at unemployment spikes next. This is also the thing that is a real heartbreaker. And since the end of the Great Recession, job openings have been climbing at a steady rate. If you look at this chart at the bottom left from 2008 going up to 2023, it should follow that straight line, blue line, etc. More people, more job openings, etc., etc. But C19 broke that trend with a dip followed by a post-C19 job surge. So the pattern isn't surprising. However, there has been overreaction in both directions, up above that blue line, and now we are shooting right down beneath it fast. And that is what is very concerning to me. If you extend the pre-C19 trend all the way up, you can see that job openings are crashing fast below the trend line. Again, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better, ladies and gentlemen. Despite what you may hear that the labor market's strong and everything else, I don't think it is. Now, speaking of labor market, we have a 2-week countdown to the second biggest strike, perhaps, in 25 years. This is the UAW. This is the United Auto Workers Union. They work with General Motors and Ford in the United States. And the union wants a 46% pay raise for their workers. They also want the workers to reduce the work week from 40 hours to 32 hours, basically take a day off. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't take days off, but they want it. And they also want a restoration of traditional pensions. Pensions are extremely expensive. So this is going to cost a lot of money. By my estimates, it'll be about $80,000 per year per worker. Okay, but let's go a little bit further. Biden administration played a brilliant move. They have, and this is from Jeff Lutz, they've built $2 billion in grants and another 10 plus billion in loans for companies to retain labor that are doing collective bargaining, i.e. union shops, to help Ford and GM get through the storm that they're facing. Obviously, Jim and others and Mary were on the phone with Biden saying, hey, we got a problem. The unions have us over a barrel. We need money. Help us out. They did. Brilliant job. So the cost per vote, $12 billion in grants and loans, divided by 150,000 UAW workers, equals exactly $80,000 per vote, which is exactly the shortfall that they have to make up for the increase in pay, reduction in hours, and to fund the pensions too. So it's brilliant. So the key here, though, is see the little money printer? The money printing is happening. You just can't see it directly. It's happening. You know, the Inflation Reduction Act, all these different types of things, the BIFP banking program, it's all money printing. Deficits are growing, the printing is going, and let's have a look at the deaths. the debt death spiral. So this is not, I'm just sharing US data. This is happening all over the world at the same time. Same charts. Okay, this is not isolated to the US. And the Treasury's responsibility is not to set the budget. It is not to decide how much to spend and borrow. The US Treasury has one main function, and that is to facilitate the budget that is set by US Congress and all spending that is approved and put into the motion by the executive branch. Ah, yes, the White House. But don't expect the White House to take responsibility for this. Now, imagine you're thinking about your kids and your grandkids, and you look at this chart up to the right, debt held by the public. The public is your kids, your grandkids, and you. And your tax dollars are paying for this. Okay? This is a death spiral. And it's going to get a lot worse. This is why we Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. And I hate to end on a sad note, but it's just numbers. So with that, everybody, thank you to everybody on Patreon for being here. Thank you to everybody in the chat as well. Hope you enjoyed the show. Sorry to end on a dim note, but literally get hard asses, because this debt is just getting out of control. Out of control. Fast, ladies and gentlemen. Big thank you to the mods in the chat, and Recluse Man, and Jeff, and everybody else. And sorry to leave that ugly picture there. Whoops. There's a better picture. So see you all on Patreon. Thanks, everybody.